Hello everyone and welcome back to the Joy of Pro Wrestling Network. I'm your host Mark Ross, and today we are discussing Ric Flair's last match. This match was held in Nashville, Tennessee. This time Ric Flair says this is his last match. Of course, he had a career-ending retirement match at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels years ago. The perfect ending to a storybook wrestling career. The situations found him. He found himself in some situations, and he needed, to go and perform again and do some matches. And he ended up having some matches with Jay Lethal in TNA, and Jay Lethal actually made him submit to the Figure 4 on a TNA pay-per-view, I believe. They say the only time that Ric Flair's ever submitted to that move was to Jay Lethal. So there's a bit of a story here. Ric Flair came back and said that he wanted to have his last match. He wanted to have one more match, and he would call this his final match. And Jay Lethal was the one that was training him for this last match. And Jay Lethal was looking for a spot on the card, and can I be in the main event? Can you do something with me? And Ric Flair just straight up told him, you're not at main event status, you're not a main eventer. And Jay Lethal really took that to heart, and he should. The longest reigning Ring of Honor champion among a lot of other championships that he's held, but Jay Lethal's proven all over the world that he's one of the greatest wrestlers of this last generation, and he's nothing to be played with. Of course, that's why Rick picked him, to train with, one of the greats. But so Jay Lethal comes into this disrespected, and they had the big press conference, and he was even disrespecting Jeff Jarrett during the press conference. Here's some tickets for you and your old man to come see me wrestle. But it caught up with him outside of the arena, or outside of the conference. Jay Lethal was waiting for him out there, and then put the beat down on him, when Jeff Jarrett joined in. And then now we have this reason for there to be a match, the hatred between them all. But very well put together pay-per-view. I thought it was a great celebration of wrestling, a great celebration of the Jim Crockett Promotions. David Crockett on commentary with Tony Schiavone through the whole thing. And they have this show right here, I believe, was put together and booked by, or maybe not booked all the way, but put together by Conrad Thompson. And Conrad put it all together, put this main event together, and made all this happen. So kudos to him. Thanks, Conrad, for putting on an amazing show. The pay-per-view in itself blew away all expectations I had for it, for the matches prior to the main event. But it was a great night of wrestling with all the great promotions and all the biggest promotions from all over the world. MLW was represented, AEW, WWE was represented, New Japan, AAA, Ring of Honor, and so on. It was a great night. Like I said, for the Jim Crockett Promotions, to celebrate their history and their legacy. Ric Flair's the biggest part of that. And of course they had Cody Rhodes on there, talking about his father, Dusty, and they had celebrities and wrestlers. Even Shawn Michaels was on there, giving their thoughts and their best wishes to Ric Flair, going into this match. So Rick been training for a while. He'd been putting out some videos with Jay Lethal, and some training videos, and we all thought, you know, Ric Flair would look pretty good through this match. I actually watched this match 3 times. The first time I watched it, I was like, man, Ric Flair's like dying out there. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, it was a pretty good work, you know, he's selling pretty good. And the third time I watched it was a little bit mixed. The third time, I guess it was a little easier to watch. But anyway, but like I was saying, the pay-per-view in itself was great. All the matches, every match on the card was just, I felt every match might have been cut short a little bit. All the matches were relative, not very long matches, but good enough to tell a good story in every match, because every match was great, I thought. Very good job by everybody that participated. But the main event, of course, Ric Flair versus Jeff Jarrett, or we got Ric Flair and Andrade versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Jeff Jarrett, when he came out in his entrance, he was looking badass, man. He like 20 years had not even passed by. He looked very good. Like his body looks like he's 20 years younger than he is. But he comes out and he's taunting the crowd. He comes out and Karen Jarrett's with him, and they go over to the commentary table and they smack the papers out of their hand, and Karen is flicking a dude's hat off of his head, and they're just being assholes. So they're coming down to the ring. They even get in a fight with these fans down the aisle, and Jarrett grabs one of their drinks and tosses it at him, and just, you know, begging him to hit me. You know, he's like, come on, hit me. And, you know, just being a total prick coming to the ring. Amazing heel work going on. You know, Jeff Jarrett's amazing. And the older he gets, I think the better he gets, it seems like. Or maybe he's like found the fountain of youth, and he just never ages, only in his face. But Flair comes out in a pretty elegant white robe that he, I guess, once wore, maybe even to that arena. But he turns around to the crowd, so you can see the back of his robe says the Nature Boy. And when he turns back around, it's a little bit of an emotional moment. He's got the big gold belt, the very first, I guess, big gold belt, the original one, and he's carrying that down the aisle as he walks the aisle one last time. So we get in the ring, and Mike Chioda is in the ring. He's the referee. Famous Mike Chioda, you know, he did WWE for years, but legendary referee, amazing referee. So he gets to call Ric Flair's last match here. Dave Pincer is the ring announcer, and he's introducing the participants, and Jeff Jarrett's going nuts, and there's chaos in the ring while he's trying to introduce the participants. Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett start out the match. Jeff Jarrett dances around Flair and then tags in Lethal right away and taunts the crowd. So Jeff Jarrett's, you know, he's not really wanting to get in the ring with Flair. He's taunting the crowd, and he tags in Lethal. So Lethal executes a takedown headlock, and Flair counters with a head scissors as the crowd chants, "You still got it." So they're, you know, exchanging chain wrestling moves back and forth. And Lethal backs Flair into the corner, and Flair slaps him. And Lethal then calls a timeout and consults with his partner Jarrett. And then Lethal and Jarrett call for Andrade to get into the ring. And then Flair tags El Idolo in the ring. Andrade and Lethal wrestle for a while, then Lethal tags in Jarrett. Jarrett then gets pissed and starts taunting the crowd, and then Andrade tags Ric Flair back in. So now it's Jarrett and Flair back in the ring. Jarrett taunts Flair and does his patented strut, and the commentators kept mentioning Jackie Fargo. There was a moment before the match where one of the interviewers go to the backstage to Jeff Jarrett's room, and then Jerry Jarrett opens the door, and they're in there, and then they walk in there, and then Jerry the King's in there, and he's telling, Jeff Jarrett, I want you to not just beat him, but I want you to humiliate him, and then I want you to do the Jackie Fargo strut, So, it's big time Memphis, Tennessee. That area is getting big time recognition here. So maybe another reason why Ric Flair wants to do this, for that legacy. He retired in the WWE Hall of Fame, in the WWE headquarters. He only had a limited amount of time there. He spent, I don't know, a big part, I guess, of the end of his career there, when his career was winding down. But I guess I can kind of understand why he wanted to do this for the Crockett legacy and the World Championship Wrestling legacy. But okay, so Jeff Jarrett's doing the Fargo strut, and then the match continues. And so far, Flair's working a good match here. He's not, he's, I guess, getting a little winded. He's slowing down a little bit, but he's still working a great match. So Rick then does a strut of his own, as only he can do. His strut's getting a little old too, but then he tells Jeff Jarrett to suck it. And then they wrestle some more, and Flair gives him some chops as they wrestle to the corner. Jay Lethal tries to get involved, but is low blowed in the back by Flair. Flair caught him with the leg as he kicks him in the nuts. So Jeff Jarrett says the hell with this, and he gets out of the ring and starts walking back to the ramp. And then the referee, of course, Mike Chioda's counting him, very slow count, allowing him, he doesn't want to have to disqualify him or whatever, throw the match out. But the crowd's chanting at him, calling him an asshole. And then Karen comes up the ramp and I guess talks him into getting back into the ring. And then Flair tags in Andrade. And then Jarrett tags in Lethal as he gets back into the ring. So Andrade and Lethal are wrestling for a while, and they end up in the corner, and Ric Flair, he's got him in the corner behind the referee, giving him the chokehold, playing the dirtiest player in the game. Still working a great match. Flair is still doing really good. He hasn't blown up yet. So the match continues. Jarrett and Lethal, let's see here. It says Flair is slowing down a little, but still looking good. Flair tags in Andrade. As the match continues, Jarrett and Lethal wear down Andrade. During that somewhere, Flair came in without a tag. He never tagged in, so he was never the legal man. This is right here in my notes that, let's see here, let's back up. Andrade drags Flair back in as he puts the beat down on Lethal. Flair is slowing down, but still looks good. So Lethal, it looked like to me Lethal and Flair were the legal man, and then Flair tags Andrade. So Flair comes into the ring without a tag. That's where the match got a little confusing and they kind of got off track here. But Flair comes in without a tag and puts Lethal in a figure 4. So I imagine that Jay Lethal should be the legal man here. So Flair comes in, you know, unannounced without a tag. Flair puts Lethal in a figure 4 as Jarrett saves Lethal and hits Rick in the head. Jarrett then calls to Karen for her high heel shoe. And then Jarrett, of course, hits Ric Flair with the high heel shoe, and that busts open Ric Flair. Jarrett and Lethal start beating up on Flair on the outside in front of his whole family. Even Undertaker and Flair, or not Undertaker, but Undertaker, Mick Foley, Bret Hart, DDP. There was a lot of people down by ringside, but he's getting beat up in front of all them, especially his own family. And his daughter Megan and Karen Jarrett start fighting, and Megan grabbed her by the hair really good and just like, you know, she was beating her up pretty good, and Karen's yelling at her, fighting back, throwing punches that, you know, they were really going at it with each other, making it look really awesome. And but Karen was yelling, you fucking bitch, I'll fucking kill you. She was really flipping out. And but Flair's a bloody mess, bleeding all over everybody. Jarrett and Flair return to the ring, and like in my notes here, I don't believe they are the legal men. But Flair's a bloody mess. Lethal then tags in and gives Flair a big suplex, a big devastating suplex that, you know, I think maybe winded Flair at that moment in time there. And then he gives him some stiff blows to the head to open up his wound. My notes say Flair's almost dead, and then he makes the hot tag to Andrade. So Andrade comes in and he fights them all off. As Ric Flair's just laying there and he can't get up. I thought, like, man, did he blow his hip out or hurt his leg or something? Or come to find out later after this that he's passing out, you know. But okay, so there was one spot before that where before Jarrett and Flair got back into the ring where they weren't even the legal men anyway. But Flair, he's on the outside faking a heart attack when they're all out there fighting. And he gets Lethal to come over there and follow him, you know, as he's faking a heart attack, and then gives him the old finger poke of doom right to the eyes, you know, dirtiest player in the game. So he gets some classic Ric Flair in there. As I'm talking about that now, I realize there's a couple spots and things he didn't do in this match that I guess maybe you were expecting out of a Ric Flair match. You know, some of his patented moves, like falling on his face, or there's a spot where they put him up on the top rope. I don't know what they were doing there, and then I think they decided that maybe that was too dangerous and they maybe shouldn't do that. And then that's when Jay Lethal gave him a suplex instead. So maybe they were like planning something off the top rope and then last minute decided not to do it. Ric Flair did say he was coming off the top rope in his very last match, so but that never happened. Maybe it was supposed to happen there, but so yeah, where were we here? Yeah, so Flair makes a hot tag to Andrade, and Andrade fights him off for a while. He does a good job at it, but Ric Flair's still laying there, looking like he's can't get up. Like I said, I didn't know if he blew a hip or something or what was going on, but come to find out he was really like having problems and like passing out and stuff. But So Lethal and Jarrett start beating Andrade up. During that, the referee got knocked out. And this happened for a good while, as Ric Flair's still laying there, hanging his head on the rope. He can't get up. But Andrade, you know, he's getting beat up, but he makes the tag to Flair, who crawls back into the ring. Then he covers Jarrett, but there's no referee. Jarrett gets up, and then he gets the guitar. Remember, there's no referee. Jarrett grabs the guitar, so Lethal has him, you know, he's holding him for Jarrett to smack him in the head with it. But Andrade interferes, and then, you know, Flair escapes and gets out of the way, and then Jarrett hits Lethal with the guitar. And then Conrad throws Andrade a pair of brass knucks, and he gives them to Rick. So Conrad threw Andrade these brass knucks, and then he walks over there and tries to put them on Rick, and Rick can't even get him on his hand. He's not in very good shape. But he's able to hit Jarrett with the big fist with the brass knucks. And then he puts Jarrett in a figure 4, and then the new ref comes down to the ring and counts Jarrett out with a pinfall 1, 2, 3 count while he's in Ric Flair's figure 4. So Ric Flair wins. He wins his last match. And then there was a big gripe about Ric Flair. His shoulders were down too, even more than Jeff Jarrett's, and that's the truth. There's nothing you can really say about that, but one good thing about that, though, I really think that the ref was looking at Jarrett's shoulders. I have a picture of it, I'm sure, but I believe he was looking away from Rick. Maybe, you know, his instinct knew that Rick, you know, was passed out. That's what happened. He passed out. Like I said, Rick looked pretty good for a while in this match, and then around the time where he started bleeding, and then he got that suplex when they were trying to put him on the top rope, started to wear down a little bit. I would say overall this match was booked pretty well, besides some of the things that happened in the match that didn't make sense, like Ric Flair coming in the ring and the legal men not being in the ring and this and that. But I thought it was written very well. The brass knucks at the end was a good touch. You know, maybe Jarrett, not to say that he should have. I'm not telling any wrestler what to do ever, but, you know, maybe he didn't realize that, you know, because his shoulders are down, he can't see shit, and he didn't realize that Flair's was pinned too, you know. Flair's shoulders were down too, and he didn't realize it, you know, and maybe if he did realize it, he could have tapped out, you know, or something, but what do you say? It was a good match. We're gonna remember it. Like, the more I watch it, the more, you know, it's not as bad as I thought it was at the first time. But, you know, besides him passing out, that's pretty scary. You know, I'm not sure, but as I'm filming this is a couple days after, you know, a few days after the match, so I'm not sure how Rick's feeling. I guess we'll find out soon when, you know, him and Conrad are on YouTube. But overall, I thought that maybe he shouldn't have done this, but he already kind of ruined that moment with Shawn Michaels in TNA, and kind of had this little thing with Jay Lethal brewing. And like I said earlier in the video, this was a great way to celebrate the legacy of Crockett Promotions. You know, World Championship Wrestling. Bob Caudle was even premiered on the show. I don't think that he made it in live attendance, but he had a little thing at the beginning. You know, all the major wrestling promotions were involved. Even what I liked too was all different commentators from each of the promotions. So when there was like a New Japan match, there would be the New Japan commentator, or the Impact matches had the Impact commentators. But anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge Ric Flair mark. Ric Flair has always been my favorite wrestler. He's what got me into understanding, you know, the stories being told inside the ring. And, you know, the older I get, the more I know, and the more it makes me love wrestling even more. It doesn't turn me away. But I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I wanted to make sure I put out this video here. I've been kind of running short on time this summer. I've been working a lot. My daughter's here from Europe for the summer. She'll be returning back home soon, here in 2 to 3 weeks. So it's been a, you know, kind of a busy time for me. I've kind of put wrestling on the back burner a little bit. I've been paying attention to what's going on, but not in depth as I usually am. But I felt like my last video was a little rushed. As I was pressed for time. I had to work and cram in, of course. But as you start to be a content creator, you'll realize that these things take time to edit videos, and you know, you just got to give yourself some time. But so that's what I've been kind of doing this summer. But in the next month or two, I'm gonna hit it hard here. I'm gonna try and get my 100 Greatest Wrestlers series out, which I've been still working on, little bits and pieces at a time. I want it to be good, so I want to put some good time into it. I want to make each wrestler represented in the list. I want it to be a tribute to them. So I'd like to take my time on that. So I know I've been promising that for a while, but I appreciate the patience. But I'll have that out soon. But I hope you've enjoyed this discussion about Ric Flair. I didn't really give my opinion on it yet, whether he should or shouldn't have wrestled. My opinion is Ric Flair should do whatever Ric Flair wants to do while Ric Flair is alive. You know, Ric Flair realizes that you only get one life to live, you know, and he sure is doing it his way, like the song says, you know. But Ric Flair's given it a lot, you know, given a lot to this business for us, and we should give him the respect to, you know, to have him be able to make that decision that he wants to go out and fight and walk that aisle one last time, you know. Who are we to tell the greatest of all time that he can't do that? So my opinion is Ric Flair can do what Ric Flair wants to do. He's the nature boy, you know. It's always been the nature of Ric Flair. But I'm going to wrap it up. So if you've liked this video, of course, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate you watching this video all the way through and listening to me jabber. But it took a while to make, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you on the next one.